Hello everybody and welcome to the Stevie P channel for another reaction video, and today we're going to be looking at the two games that got Sacha Feinberg-Mngomezulu back on track and set him up for what a phenomenal Springbok season he had. If we remember correctly, we go back to the beginning of the year when he came back from an injury which kept him out of that Springbok end of year tour. He was not the Sacha Feinberg-Mngomezulu that we kind of sort of seen. He kind of looked a bit of a shadow of himself, and it kind of takes a while after a spell on the side to kind of get back into form. He then had a run of games where he basically announced himself. He also then struggled in the quarterfinal. You got to call a spade a spade. But he had a run of games where all of a sudden we started to really see that this kid is going to be generational. And he then went on to have a fantastic Springbok season. Before we get into it, I want to know, where is the Sacha Feinberg-Mngomezulu threshold? Are we talking Dan Carter levels? Are we talking best Springbok fly half ever? Or are we talking about another solid career, for example? Is he overhyped? Some people saying he was overhyped. Is he selfish? Some of the criticism he's had. I think he's just a tremendous player. I absolutely love watching him play rugby. And I think he's got absolutely everything to be the best in the world. But let's go have a look at exactly what he can do, shall we? Just side note, by the way, that kind of carry from Salman Murad is something we need to see more of. But here we go. There's a bit of a juggle there. And bang, look at the pace. Look at the pace. Not to mention, we'll go through this again, by the way, because there's a lot to look at. First of all, the juggle. So he's running at pace, gets it slightly wrong, does manage to hold on, gets the offload away. Immediately back as a support line. Now here, he's got an option to the left, identifies that the number 14 is wrong footed. He's come back inside. By the way, the option would have been there all the time to make the pass. But look at the pace he's got. And also, holding the ball in one hand is, first of all, not something you are ever coached to do. It's funny how it's what makes some of the best players in the world is the ability to do all the things you're told not to do, because they've got the ability to do it, and the general player doesn't. His goal kicking, of course, as well, we all know is top class. Needs to work on a little bit. It's been a bit up and down lately. But, and then this over here, I think this is a very unique part to him. That chip and chase he's got. Now, it doesn't always come off. I mean, he didn't quite go back into that regard. But Stormers have progressed 20-odd meters here. Once again, and he looks for the space at all times. So he's a unique fly half in that he's not like a Mani Liebach, who's obviously his first instinct is to always sort of bring in other players, kind of maybe go wide, cross kicks, the likes of that. He is a heads-up fly half, though. You know, he looks at where's the space. Can I take the space? Can I kick into the space? Can I chip into the space? Or then do I need to look at going wide, putting other players up, into a gap, the likes of that? But he's just such a good all-around threat. Even there, the plan was not to go. Spins around one, brings in another, and the support line. I mean, that is something from nothing. Literally, he went to the right-hand side, saw there was nothing on, drifted back inside. He turns in the space, bang, 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 thank you. I mean, this is where we talk about players who are the best in the world. The fact that the ability to create something from literally nothing. And that's a phenomenal example of it. They had no rights to score. They were sitting about 22, nothing much on. By the way, this kid's going to play many games for Springboks, by the way. Paul de Villiers, he's playing absolutely tremendous rugby right now. But look at the pace he's got. And again, the skill set. Straight into the groove. That's his left foot. He is right footed, but he loves to chip off his left foot. Regather, over he goes. It's just so easy for him. When he's playing at his best ability, it is so easy for him. And a big part of his game, and this is why he's been able to play it inside center. Some people say, and this is one of the reasons he shouldn't be playing inside center, because he's going to get injuries, is he can defend. He is a very good defender. I think something that he probably needs to work on is his tactical kicking. To be perfectly honest, I think that's something that he will have to work on with regards to kicking for touch and the likes of that. He makes mistakes, and he does sometimes, for example, miss touch and the likes of that. But he brings so much to the party over the side that they're willing to sort of work with that. So everyone's going to have their kind of work-ons and the likes of that. But this is a part of his game that will have to come. Being able to kick into the space and the likes of that. And he's obviously got the power. He's got the kind of the length of boot and the likes of that. It's just about the decision-making. Austin Nuttler, so good to see him back on a rugby field. But look, again, this supporting line there. And then little chicken wing. It's easy. I said, rugby's easy for him. It's easy for him. There was again, heads up rugby here from the Stormers, who are playing fantastic rugby, to be honest. It pains me to say it. And then, that's what I'm saying. It's just what I'm saying. It's just so easy. It's so easy for him when he's playing. I mean, that over there, step away from one. I mean, it's not a 2 meter pass, by the way. And the fact is that just all of this just comes naturally. You know, it's not like he thinks about it. It just becomes natural to him. Everything there. Grab her into the space. I think he benefited a lot from playing with Monty Bot, to be honest, and Dave Willemse. I think he's got players with creativity and different types of players who've got different types of skill sets that I think he really, really does well to sort of grow off. But he's just got it all. He's got absolutely everything you need in everything you'd want to see. I mean, if you had to sort of build a perfect flower, I'm not saying that he is the perfect flower for vertical commas, but he's got all the attributes. If you wanted to build a perfect flower half, he basically ticks almost every single box. The one thing that he obviously will need to improve on is tactical kicking, but he's got the range, for example. Now it's about the decision making, but he's an attacking threat. He can, as I said, he can create the offload. And I think the big thing, and this is what he'll really start to learn to do as he goes on his career, because he's such an attacking threat, he has to be marked. You know, he has to. Players are so now wary of him taking the line, for example, that chip and chase, that players are on him. And I mean, if somebody can pull out a 30, 40 meter drop goal, you know, why not? But because all of a sudden, you know, for example, Andre Pod often doesn't run himself. It's the same as Marty Liebach, for example. So you're not always monitoring and worrying about that running threat. Because he's such a running threat, you have to make sure you've got a couple of players on him. And that can create other gaps, like that side gap. People are so worried about him taking the gap that they didn't worry about the inside ball back into the tight head prop, who went over basically untouched. Good under the high ball as well is obviously a thing. But again, over here, heads up, bro, quick tap. Options, ball back inside. By the way, that's another back of the door pass here. Yeah, you've had penalty in the 10 meter line. Penalty in the 10 meter line. You've taken it quickly, thrown that pass, and they've scored. So you were thinking, oh, cool, nice. You know, usually players go behind the ball. You wait to kick towards touch. Not him. He said, thank you very much. I'm going to go score a try. Same over here. Not too many options over there. It doesn't quite come off. But he's always looking to create something. You know, his for example, output is not necessarily just, oh, let's have a reset, the likes of that. His output, his thinking, his first instinct is, how do we attack space? How do we score a try? How do we score points? How do we get the gain line? And he does it so well and so often. You know, obviously, it's not always gonna come off. You know, that's the thing. He's never gonna be 100% player. You know, not every single chip and chase is going to be successful. Not every single, you know, line he runs is going to be, the man's very offside over there, is going to be, you know, perfect. But you got to look at sort of percentages. And I think at the moment, when he's playing at his highest level, those percentages are sort of like 8 out of 10. You know, you sort of 80% of what he tries comes off. And the international rugby is a game of margins, which means he's going to have to sort of basically decide what sort of percentage can we live with. Because when that starts to get to 60%, 50%, then that's too expensive because you can lose games like that. At 80%, it's worth the risk. Because you score in try. I mean, he's already scored, by the way, the more tries than any other South African fly half in the history of fly halves that we've had. So he really, really is a special player. Now the question is, can we see this kind of consistency or this kind of game consistently? You know, that having that double threat of him and Wargeland is childish. It really is. It's there's too much creativity in one team. And again, the little chip and chase makes it work. First, it doesn't possibly go quite to hand. But again, he's got that instinct. And this is the thing. He's willing to try. A lot of players wouldn't chip and chase and then try to throw out a Hail Mary pass. And it won't always come off. But because he tries things, we get moments like we've seen so far before. And that's what I'm talking about with regards to having to weigh up those decision-making moments about when to do it, when not to do it. And that's going to define him as a player. If he makes the right decisions, if he continues, and again, you know, I mean, that for example, that's a small moment, that's a defensive moment. But how big is that? I mean, there's a bizarre situation that actually happened right in front of me. I was actually at the game. So you watch these sort of thing of it, and this is not a highlights reel as such. This is just, you know, moments that he's had in two games. And it really shows you some of the bad, obviously some of the bad, some of the passes that don't go to hand, some of the kicks that are too far. But the good is sublime. And it's an ability to create moments that no other player, or so few players have. And that makes it so exciting. So My question to you guys is where do we stand with? I mean, and where does he need to improve? You know, how do you make him maybe more accurate without removing the natural flair and the ability that comes with a player that's found 20, 30 odd meters and still going and then gets the ball back inside. You know, like it doesn't come off there, but they've gone from the halfway line to the 20 almost single-handedly because of him. And a player like that doesn't come around very often. So how many mistakes are you willing to accept and compromise with to continue having the moments that he produces? And that's the question that the Box have to answer, the question that the Stormers have to answer. And my question is quite a few, to be honest. My question, my thing is, you give that man license and you tell him to play his game, because when he's playing at the top level, he is untouchable and he would start for majority of the teams around the world. In fact, let me know any team that he wouldn't start for at an international level. Let me know.